For all the producers, beats get taken down because they used a royalty-free sample that someone else is claiming they owned, or for no reason. I mean, producers were contacting me and saying, hey, my beat got taken down for no reason. I was making it live on video. Good morning, what's going down is the MEC. I gotta stop saying good morning because people are checking us out at all hours of the day. Greetings, what's going down is the Music Entrepreneur Club podcast. My name is DJ Payne One. Dame and Aaron are both laughing at me, but we do really enjoy working with each other. How are you feeling today?
I'm doing good. Another busy week, but feeling good, relatively productive. But yeah, I'm good. What about yourself, Aaron?
Same. I'm good, relatively busy. I'm doing the 3 a.m. nights, 4 a.m. nights again, early mornings. So I'm tired, but I'm doing a lot of speaking gigs lately, which is super tight. So I'm just like flying in and out of Atlanta, but I'm also on tour with an author, also on our dream tour. So the schedules are crazy. Most days I'm flying in and flying right back out 24 to 48 hours later. So I'm happy, but I'm tired. I'm taking naps these days.
Nice. Congrats. Well, let's kick things off. There was a tweet I saw probably 3 or 4 days ago. Like, apparently there's a young lady named Ice Spice that is buzzing in New York, or starting to buzz. And apparently she had a show that she originally booked for, I think, $4,000 or $5,000, but she's growing so fast that between the time that she agreed to do the show and whenever the show is, like, her price is now $15,000. So her team has pulled the show saying, that's no longer the price, even though from my understanding, there was an agreement and probably a contract in place. And we're just going to assume that's it, because to me, these stories are less about the artist and more about the situation. So if somebody comes back and has new information, that's great. We can discuss it. But if that is what happened, Aaron, what would you do in that situation?
We do the shows. Like, what? Great.
For the original price.
Yes. Okay. I'll tell you, this happened to us. 2020 happens. We have 10, 15, 20 shows already booked for our booking agency, invite only, not including tour dates. Tour dates, whatever, come back in 2020, but the other dates, they've already paid the deposit. So in 2021, when everybody starts reaching back out, we have to honor the move date. That's just there's a force majeure in most contract that says if an act of God happens or whatever, these are the terms that you can get out of the contract. But aside from that, act of God was COVID, but as decent human beings, we're like, this happened to all of us. All of us lost money. Let's go do this show. By the time our artists were all doing shows a year later, their social prowess had grown, their physical in-house demand had grown, and all of their rates had increased at least by 20%. Now, I understand that her rate had increased 4 times over. Cool. The thing is, all the people that we did shows with, I think something like 80-something% of those people rebooked us right after we played that show at our new rate, no questions asked. Had we pulled out of this show and been assholes like these people, and again, I get 4 to 15 is a big jump. That means you guys have done a good job of scaling her brand, but that's what happens. Brand deals, you'll agree to a fee. Sometimes you'll be editing stuff for 6 to 8 months. I'm telling you, I know a YouTuber who went from 300,000 to $1 million in a year, but he still has brand deals from when he was a 300,000 YouTuber. That's just the nature of the business. You did what you were supposed to do. Congrats. Show some love to the people who did their job to see your value at the time that you were that valuable, because it helped you get to this point. Don't burn a bridge because your ego is so big. Her expenses didn't increase by 4 times that quickly. And if they did, you say, hey, just to give you a heads up, this is what's happened. We now travel with a full band, all these things. At this rate, we're still going to come, but it's just going to be a DJ. That's simple. You may not even have to have that conversation because that's just an internal thing. But to be an asshole and to pull from the show, they didn't even offer the people the opportunity really because they're like, you guys can't afford us. If you can, we'll change it up. But it's just the tone of the way that they operated in this situation that I think is really egregious. Again, it shows that you have no tact because if your bottom line is money, you'll always be chasing that. Relationships are what get you by in this industry. And they just not only burn those, but I feel like everybody who read it, I don't know any manager, business person, whatever, who read about this and was like, yeah, I'm going to work with them now. I don't care. That I didn't know this artist before, but now I'm definitely super uninterested in working with them.
Payne, what's your reaction to what reportedly happened?
She got the Drake cosign, right? That's what changed.
Is that what it was? Because her music is like, I looked on Spotify, like I've heard the name, but I thought I was gonna go to Spotify and see like way more plays. Like she's got one song that I guess is popular called Munch. I haven't listened to it, but she's got one song, like no other song has 1 million plays. So if her show price went up, then maybe that's a festival rate or like she definitely can't like tour and get like, because touring doesn't even work like that. Like every market is probably different for each artist, right? You don't just say like, I never was just like, oh, our price is 15, maybe like for festivals or something like that. But like I never just say, oh, our price is X. Like it changes. So I don't
I suppose you can only charge that much if there's a huge demand.
Hold on, Aaron's.
So that was me yesterday with sneezes.
Gotta make sure Aaron's still with us.
I'm a big part of Allergy Gang.
Festivals, you can only charge that much if there's a huge demand for your artist at that festival. My experience is that sometimes festivals, 50% of the time, we'll take a lower rate just to get on the fest stage. And we can package it with tour dates. So this is literally just because Drake co-signed her. That's sad.
Payne, what did Drake just say? Hey, I like her. Is she on a song? Is she on a song?
I don't think she's on a Drake song. I think she was spotted with Drake and Drake. I honestly don't know. But there's, you know how Drake is. He aligns himself with an up and coming artist, and he's done that with a lot of artists. He's done that with Kodak Black. He's done it with who else has he done it with?
Migos.
Yeah, Migos. Block Boy JB. So, you know, he's selective about it. He doesn't do it every month. He maybe does it once a year. And that artist, generally speaking, has at least a wave of success following that particular Drake moment. So, Dame, I agree with you. Her music is good. I don't want to disparage any of what they're doing. However, yeah, the Munch music video was only, according to YouTube, it only came out within the last month or two. And yeah, that's going viral. It's not a hit song yet, just in terms of numbers, but it's going viral. I guess I don't know what the management knows, because from what I'm seeing, the way I'm looking at it, I don't understand who's doing the cost benefit analysis here and saying, all right, it's worth more to triple our rates and burn bridges than it is to just fulfill our obligations. Because then the other thing too is there some kind of crazy exit clause in these interviews where it's like, in the case, because Drake co-signing you isn't an act of God, I don't think. I mean, he is the sixth God, so maybe there's some kind of legal loophole there, but I doubt it. So there could be some repercussions. It doesn't seem as though the promoters and organizers who got burned by her team are really seeking any kind of retribution here. But
it's $4,000. Like, I mean, I don't think anybody's gonna.
Right. but they are. Well, I guess they are seeking retribution because they're making it clear that it was their fault. That's the reason why she's not on the stages.
And I
So
just found my Drake cosign.
What did he do?
let's talk about it.
It's a DM from Drake that says that Munch and On Your Radar freestyle hard AF. I'm gonna play him on the radio show.
Drake hey, there's not another artist that does this for other artists. You know, whether it's self-serving or not, like I don't see it.
Billie Eilish has done a lot. Like she does that for independent small artists, especially on her radio show. She's played us. Like Billie Eilish is good about finding like under the radar acts, playing them on her Beats One radio show, and then like reposting them. She'll take a smaller act. Like she took Childish Major from Atlanta on her arena tour with him. Do you know what I'm saying? Billie Eilish is something. I won't say Drake isn't the only one. Billie Eilish. Really
okay, what about in hip hop? Who else? Well, there's not really anybody in Drake's status because Drake is like the top of the top. But like another thing I don't understand is like most of our shows like always have like a back end agreement. So right, we would have a guarantee, and then if we sell out or come close to selling out, we would hit back end and get an additional bonus. Like we never just had a rate that was just like, oh, we're just gonna go here for 5,000. Like we would go somewhere for X amount, 10,000, 5,000, whatever. And then if it sells out, we typically get a back end bonus. So if it was structured like that, she would get breaded out anyway because more people would come. You know, obviously there might be venue capacity restrictions, whatever the venue capacity was. So if she got more popular in those few weeks, like more people would come and everybody would win if it was structured like that. So that's another thing I don't really understand. And maybe she can't be worth more, like it probably just a New York thing. Like she's worth 15,000 in New York because she's buzzing. I've heard, I keep hearing the name. I do. But yeah, it's just
followers, so maybe.
It's just bad business. Like anytime you agree to something, especially when you have a contract in place, it's bad business to not follow through with what you say you're going to do. Like I just don't understand why artists, like a lot of artists, they get a moment and then they start to get ahead of themselves. Now, sometimes the artist does reach where their head gets, right? But oftentimes what I see is artists get ahead of themselves and they start acting like they're in a place that they're really not. And they start burning a lot of bridges, right? Like something happened, maybe not because not everybody gets a Drake cosign, but maybe like back in the day, it was like, oh, once they got on World Star or like once they got on Sway or like these certain things happen. And then they think they're off to the races. It's like, no, you're not, but you're acting like you are. And now you're starting to burn all these bridges. And that's like definitely going to make it so you don't get to where you want to be. Even Joe Budden one time was that?
I just want to ask you a follow-up question about your contracts with Funk Volume, where you said you would get you had some, what did you call that clause where you would receive additional, the back end agreement? Did you always have those from show number one, or was that something you learned after your shows became successful and then you incorporated that into all future contracts?
I always thought it was normal. I don't ever recall, like, unless it was a festival date, like I don't recall any show just being a certain price. Like even for the shows that we have for John next month, like there's a minimum guarantee, and if they sell out or or come close to selling out, we're gonna get additional funds because the total walkout potential. So the guarantee might be, 2,000, whatever, but the total walkout potential might be $8,000, $10,000, $15,000.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. I don't believe most managers or newer booking agents or booking agents working with newer artists who aren't that experienced have that. Or
I will speak on that. For my bigger artists who draw, we have it. For my smaller artists, we don't, because most of the bookings especially for the smaller artists, aren't based on ticket sales. It's just like social status / we pitched you for a show to open up for one of our other artists that already have a draw. And then a lot of our shows we do, especially because I worked in the Christian hip hop industry, we do a lot of like festivals and rallies and like shit that does not even sell tickets. It's just bodies in the room. So it just depends. I think it depends on your market. But when we first started, I didn't have that in there. I actually put it in the contracts after we started doing our own bigger events because we were offering other artists a sellout bonus. Like, hey, here's the baseline because we don't know how much we're going to make. But if we make more, you're going to make it with us. So then I started going back and we retroactively added it into our other artist contracts.
I think, what do they call it? It's like, so the way that the term is, it's like, you'll get $2,000 or 75 to 85% of the gross box office receipts, right? Minus some expenses. So, all of the revenue generated minus some expenses, you get a certain percentage of that, whether, I don't think there's any like specific standard, but ours are like anywhere from 75 to 85%. So when you settle the show, venues and promoters typically like to get funny with the expenses. So you have to have like an experienced tour manager on the road to go through the expenses and make sure that back end is calculated correctly. So, but artists have to get out. And even Joe Budden was on his podcast one time talking about he don't care about contracts. I'm like, yo, that's not going to get you far. That was one of the things that me and Hobson butted heads about, because on his first album, Raw, like, because I had been doing hella work from 2008 to when we finally got him out of his contract in 2011. And for most of his projects were like 50-50, but 50 to the label and 50 to him. So, and I own the label half. So it's essentially like 75-25. However, that first project was supposed to be 50-50, 50 to him, 50 to me. Right. So because I had been doing so much work and like that was the first thing we sold. So for 3 years, I pretty much worked for free. So that project was supposed to be 50-50. And out the gate, it didn't really sell that much. But as we grew, like that project started to get downloaded a lot from iTunes. So eventually, like 2 or 3 years later, he finally looks at what Raw has been selling. And he just tried to say, oh, you're getting too much. I want to change that deal. Like literally years after we made the deal. And I had put in all that sweat equity for 3 years. And I'm like, yo, you can't do this. You should execute whatever contract you have and then renegotiate the next albums or leave. Like that, you have to be a person of your word just in life, but definitely in business. You don't want to develop a reputation for somebody that just pulls out of agreements or just changes shit when you feel like you're bigger, or when you feel like you just want to flex your ego.
And if you're that big, sell out the show, kill on merch. Now your overhead is lower and your per head sales are higher. I mean, you can just go back home. But pulling out all this is working backwards, because my thought is, if she has 3 or 4 $4,000 shows, that's equivalent to one $16K show, but the amount of fans that you're gonna reach. Like you're thinking about this isolated incidents, but imagine the fans who get to see you in a small club. They tell the legend of you. This is short-sighted. It's childish. It's clear that people working with her don't have experience in the music industry. This sounds like and I hate it because
they're
she's
there
a
for the
Black
quick
woman.
money.
Yeah, but she's a Black woman, and this is going to damage her because people, especially when Black people don't do business well, it stays with you way longer. When Black women don't do business well, you're talked about in a different type of way. So for me, it's frustrating that the people around her are short-sighted, because if her guidance was telling her that, hey, we're going to still do these, it probably, I don't know, artists are fickle, but it probably wouldn't have gotten to this point. You know what I'm saying? It's not good business. It's sad to see.
Do we know how many events were canceled?
Nah. I mean,
if we only know of the one, so maybe there was something else going on. I can't necessarily take the word of the promoters at face value. But if there's a pattern of this, if I see 3 or 4 other promoters saying, yeah, the same thing happened to us, and now I'm looking at it like, yeah, this is becoming a more straightforward case. But just like when a rapper goes at their label, a promoter can go at an artist and say, well, they canceled it because they think they're too big now. And it could be that, it could not be that.
I mean, they showed the email. It's an email from her
if they
team.
showed the proof, then yeah,
Yeah, it's an email from her team.
What does the email say? I'd love to see.
Due to matters out of our hands, Ice Spice will no longer be attending the party. As her status and song to continue to grow daily, her team has decided to pull her off of numerous shows. Oh, actually, never mind. This is the promoter but he posted it from a very public profile. I feel like.
But again, that's why I never go too in on like Ice Spice. We know this happens. Like this happens a decent amount, just with other artists. So so whether there are more details, we can update the podcast. Like,
he's also pulling off the tour. Y'all can go look at B Love. So I think I'm not saying it's confirmed, but this promoter talked about it, and then B Love's team was like, she pulled off the tour. So
who's B Love?
Whoever she was about to open up for on tour.
So Aaron, that was going to be my next question though. Does it change if it's a tour and somehow the opener in that little bit of time got bigger than the headliner? If it's 20 dates, how are you handling that?
So I'm high key in the middle of this right now. And it's not that our artist suddenly got bigger. I'm going to just put it out there because I don't care. Our artists can sell phenomenally. Our artist also headlines a festival centered essentially around him. We invited a bigger artist to come do a guest spot on the stage. The bigger artist announces that he's taking our artist on tour in front of a sold out crowd in Atlanta, right? So I'm like, bet, game on. We had been talking to their team a bit, but if you announce it before we have the terms straight, that means I have all the leverage. This is my favorite place to negotiate from. We're not going to beat you over the head, but whatever. My artist keeps talking to their artist. We're like, hey, we don't have an agreement on table. A week before they announce the flyer, we get back an agreement that I'm like, this is complete. You sell exponentially more than this. This is not even reflective of direct support. My artist decides he still wants to go on. I don't know if it's for clout. I don't know if he feels like he owes it to this guy, but I feel like we are being extremely disrespected on the rate. And I don't think the tour is going to go well. They're spending too much. I can tell. My artist said he still wanted to go. So what we did is we took out all of the non-compete, all of the radius clauses, all of that. And we're throwing pop-ups all over the US. So we're doing merch pop-ups and meet and greets to where we're maximizing our money. So for me, even if it doesn't shake down, I'm not going to pull out of the contract. My artist wanted to sign it. I told him not to. We're stuck here, but we're going to make the money. Because as a manager, I'm not going to say yes to you saying yes to no money because I'm making even less money. But I'm going to figure out a way to match. So it's a weird situation. We reached out. We were like, hey, we need more money. Like, we tried to negotiate. They tried to hoe us. So I'm like, I'm going to take everything out of the contract that would keep us from maximizing the money we'll make. He's going to sell that night. We're dropping different merch. We're about to launch that promotion almost as if it's a tour. And we're still promoting, and I'm not even saying we're doing less promotion. He's still promoting. But when it gets down to 2 weeks out and they're like, hey, we haven't sold enough tickets, because I'm looking at ticket sales right now. We would be doing a lot more on our management side because we own a marketing firm if they would have paid us properly. But they were so caught up in like, no, your artist isn't that big. So I'm like, okay, we'll show you. Like, shit, we gonna make money. Y'all can figure it out. But it's a weird place to be. I will say it's still hard. I have renegotiated tour rates before in the process of tour. And I have also told people, hey, my artist won't be coming out to every date. We'll come out to the main dates. We have done that before. especially when it's a long tour, but I really try not to fully pull. I think it's an integrity thing. If you think that in this moment you're too big to have good integrity, then I think that your dreams, all the things that you're willing to wager on this one moment are about to fail. So I personally still won't pull from that, but we will try to have some conversations.
Yeah, I remember when we were doing a co-headline with Yellow Wolf, and there was I could tell that there was some resistance to doing a co-headline because they didn't really know what kind of draw we had. And it only was until when we were on the road, his manager came to me and pretty much apologized. So it was cool. Like, I didn't know Hop drew like this. So, it was cool, but it's tough when you start, working with other artists and other teams because everybody's kind of like jockeying for position, and it can get a little weird. But anyway, we stayed on this topic for a minute. What do we want to move to next? We want to move to the YouTube stuff, or we want to talk about the the more NFT Web3 greatness?
Let's go to YouTube because I just want to say this one thing about NFT Web3. All of y'all have yet to prove that we have been wrong this whole time. That's all I got to say.
We know.
And literally all
we've
said, I think our stance on Web3 and NFTs is that so far the ideas have not been complete or comprehensive.
Well, I feel like we got to talk about it now.
Well, no, I think that's just a blanket statement. That's always been our policy. It's never been that we're anti-Web3 or resistant to any of that. We want the change. We want there to be a paradigm shift. But every time someone makes a grandiose statement about how Web3 and NFTs are going to revolutionize the music industry, one, they never have specifics. Two, they never have experience. And three, they never have proof. Something rolls out and they're like, well, yeah, it worked for this one person, but it didn't really work. Like, a lot of people will say, well, Tory Lanez, it worked for him. No, I mean, not really, because the model that they were touting involved NFT reselling investment, and that didn't work. That failed miserably. So then people are like, well, wait till the next one. It'll work eventually. Anyone can say that. Why do we give the NFT crypto people way too much of a pass to make whatever statement they want about any industry that their technology is going to revolutionize. And we just sit back and say, yeah, well, and I think it's because people just don't understand the current landscape of that particular space well enough to give any kind of skepticism or criticism about these new changes that are being proposed. And the new changes that are being proposed, again, aren't very specific. But I do want to talk about another change that I've always proposed, and mine is very clear, and I think it's a popular platform that I'm running on for president of the internet. Eventually, I'm going to launch my campaign, and I hope I have both of your votes. But
president of the internet,
yeah, president of the DJ Payne won for president of the internet. My stance is this. This is my campaign slogan: contentID is trash. That's my entire campaign slogan. And I've said that before. I've said contentID is trash. I've said it enables theft. Whether it's people claiming ownership of splice samples they didn't make, or beats they don't own, or just absolutely no reason given whatsoever, people have said time and time again that, well, this practice is wrong. It's not illegal, right? I've always argued that it does violate some kind of law. And I've heard people say, yeah, well, contentID, it's kind of gray area. And there was I got into this long debate with someone who just wouldn't stop clinging to this notion that you can infringe on someone's copyrights as much as you want through contentID, and it doesn't actually violate any sort of law, which is hilarious because copyright, just the word copyright. Anyway, how is it legal when another person claims they own my beat, or by them claiming they own a royalty-free sample, they're able to take money from me, intercept money that's coming to me, when copyright is this federal law and an international law to an extent? You tell me. But that being said, there is an article and a story circulating the internet, which I think should be spoken about way more often than it has been. And part of that is on us because we didn't bring it up yet. but I know you sent the article. Two people, and they're not the only ones, but they're the dumbest and most extravagant ones. Two people made millions, and not like 1 or 2 million, but 23 million apparently, by stealing other people's rights through Content ID. And the Content ID system allows this, and this is a great example to drive my point home. And then the part that I love is that, and it's not present in every article, but on the Billboard.com article, YouTube is getting sued for this. And I think that's amazing, and I want to read that part. So these two guys claimed ownership of thousands of songs they had nothing to do with. And then when they started getting a little bit of scrutiny from their distributor, who's called AdRev, not a distributor. Whatever we're calling these royalty collection agencies that are kind of playing the role of distributors, kind of publishing admins, but they're not necessarily collecting on traditional publishing royalties. They're just collecting on YouTube ad revenue and the Content ID money. That's what AdRev is. So they used AdRev and sometimes claimed 100% of songs by big artists. But because a lot of artists, even big artists, even major label artists, don't always go out and manually claim the money from YouTube because they're busy claiming traditional royalty streams like performance royalties, master royalties, all that other stuff. Oftentimes songs in the YouTube arena remain unclaimed, and they're generating lots of money, millions clearly. So and the same copyrights govern that space too, as they do the traditional music business royalty spaces. Like we talk about royalties on the master side, the master recording side, and the underlying composition side. Both apply to YouTube. So sometimes these guys were claiming 100% of both copyrights on a song. And it makes me think, we're talking about like big, mostly Latin artists. So if like Anuela A is not claiming 100% or any percentage of his song to the point that a third party of thieves can just come in and take all his royalties, how many millions, maybe billions of other songs by artists who are, unknown or lesser known or DIY are just open and being taken advantage of? So this is from Billboard magazine. I'm sorry for droning on, but I find this really fascinating. Sources say YouTube scammers commonly claim, so this is happening. They're saying that this happens a lot. Claim small fractions of songs that they suspect have not been claimed properly and might not be noticed. This is especially prevalent on the music publishing side, where there are usually more rights holders, particularly on contemporary songs that credit many songwriters, so the division of ownership and royalties can be more difficult to track. Music business is not transparent at all, and that needs to change as well. We've talked about that. If one or more of the songwriters is known to be without a publisher, there's a strong chance that the writer does not know if their share of the composition is being claimed correctly. Media Move, in contrast, these are the scammers, often claimed 100% of the royalties for master recordings or publishing. So they were bold with it. Here's the part about YouTube. YouTube's content management system and its Content ID tool, which identifies matching sound recordings, enables larger rights holders, including labels, publishers, and multi-channel networks, to monitor royalty collection and metadata for their musical copyrights. These scams happen all the time in every sector, on every service, and also within rights collections agencies around the world, says Jeff Price, founder of TuneCore, a global distributor and music publishing administrator, Audiem, a rights management company, and founder of blah, blah, blah. The upside is when they happen on YouTube, the system they built allows for greater transparency and the ability to identify and potentially fix the problem. However, that transparency is not accessible to everyone. YouTube's content management system tools are available only to select users approved by the video sharing platform, labels, bigger entities. This means that many artists, songwriters, and their teams, especially less established ones, are not able to monitor their copyrights and royalty collection on YouTube on their own. Let's see what else happened. So Maria Schneider. Okay, so this is what it is. She filed a proposed class action lawsuit against YouTube in July of 2020, alleging that ordinary creators of copyrighted works are left behind by YouTube's copyright enforcement system, and that they are forced to police their own copyrights, yet provided no meaningful ability to do so. As a result, the lawsuit claims that YouTube has become a hotbed of piracy. Yeah, and so apparently that lawsuit that has been I don't know the legal term, when the lawsuit is so YouTube obviously disputed it, but the lawsuit still stands. So I hope that YouTube gets sued. For all the producers whose beats get taken down because they used a royalty-free sample that someone else is claiming they own, or because an artist licensed their beat but didn't read the contract and monetized it, or for no reason. I mean, producers were contacting me and saying, hey, my beat got taken down for no reason. I was making it live on video and the platform took it down. I hope YouTube loses this lawsuit. I hope they dismantle their content ID system, and I hope every other platform, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all these other platforms doing the same thing, see that and say, oh, we gotta get on this and dismantle our systems too before we get sued, because we're gonna lose millions off this. We may as well just be proactive. I don't know if it's gonna happen, but I'm encouraged, because I've been saying class action lawsuit over and over again, and I hope, if possible, other companies jump on board too. I hope Splice jumps on board, honestly.
So I have a couple of questions that hopefully are helpful to the people that are watching this podcast. Payne, what do you do to make sure that you collect everything that you're owed on YouTube? Because I have an issue with YouTube. I mean, I think we all have an issue with YouTube, especially with Ja and his sketches, because, if he uses 10 seconds of a song, we got to go to that artist and whitelist our channel so we could use it, because he's going to start claiming everything. Like, we just spent, a couple grand to record this sketch. And then on the outro, your song plays for 10 seconds. And now our video gets flagged and wants to collect all of the money from our video. And your song was just playing 10 seconds at the end. Like, it would be ideal if, one, if things were more transparent, and two, if we could somehow split the money that comes from YouTube. And
you can. That's the thing. You can. So, so to answer your question, there are companies out there like AdRev, like Video, like Create, all these companies that are collecting this music on behalf, that's collecting these royalties on behalf of these creators. They have access to these systems where they can put in a claim for a certain percentage of a certain copyright and collect those royalties according to the percentage of equity that the artist they represent owns in that song. But the average person can't just do that. I can't just go onto YouTube and say, I have all these content ID alerts where someone is using my song. Okay, I know this person, we've worked this out. I'm going to whitelist their channel. Or this person has a split with me, I'm going to approve this 50, like on BeatStars, when you collaborate with someone else, you get a notification that says, they want to share revenue with you. YouTube doesn't have that. I mean, they have a system like that, but they only give it to big entities. They don't give it to everybody. So everyone's just left behind. And the thing is, this is how the PROs have been doing it forever. You go in, you provide all the metadata, you put in everyone's IPI numbers, everyone collects their money, and if there's a conflict, they freeze the funds until you can resolve it. Why can't YouTube do that?
But there's different revenues. And what are the different royalty streams that come from YouTube? Obviously, you have AdSense, but then there are other
the ad rev. Right. That's what most people are thinking when they think of YouTube. But then there's also there's microsync, and so these agencies collect on that stuff. So,
you're saying they collect both sides, because Because for us, like obviously it's a sketch, so it's a comedy sketch, and then a song might appear. So we wouldn't want the artist to collect any percentage of the. It would be ideal for them to get what they're owed from I guess a micro sync perspective, and then the AdSense should be all us.
Yeah, I mean, just like just like the traditional music industry, you can choose whatever split you want for any given copyright. So,
but we can't do that on YouTube. You said
no, that's my point. But like but I'm saying with like, let's say we put out a song, right? And the distributor, they're collecting on the master side. We split the master side 80-20, but we split the publishing 50-50. These are two you can separate these percentages and these splits. Maybe you don't get, maybe the master is 100% to me, but the publishing is 50-50. You have that ability to do that in the music business at large, but contentID comes in, you don't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. Like this entire industry profits off of, and well, not just this entire industry, like insurance, taxes. It profits off of ambiguity. If I'm YouTube and I built the system and I'm not being required to build a system or to purchase a system that gives more, you know what I'm saying? There's maybe 1% of all people frustrated by this or willing to dive into talking about it, discussing it, recognizing that there's an issue. And then truth of the matter is if 1% of people are bothered, now they have to know the right people, like the lobby groups, like A2IM would be somebody who would lobby for something like this. And then A2IM would take it through and they'd be like, this doesn't work out for indies because of X, Y, and Z. And they lobby for 2 or 3 years and maybe a change will happen. Do you know what I'm saying? So the bullshit is that people who are affected by it don't know or don't care. People who know can't do anything about it. And then the industry just kind of shrugs and we keep it moving. I think that's exactly what's about to happen with Web3. We touched on it a little bit. There's a lot of ambiguity. People don't actually know, like YouTube is a technology company, like they're Google. They're not focused on creators. In fact, YouTube is a business model for them, for Google to generate more ad sales. Like the whole reason that YouTube was created was so that Google had another place to charge people for ads. They never envisioned it becoming what it is now, this huge creator economy where they became the new TV, the new information system. That wasn't the intention. The intention was Google has only so much space as a search engine. How can we up that? Oh, let's let people upload their personal videos to our platform. So I'm just saying they don't care about us. And then I think the second thing is that they profit so heavily off the ambiguity because if there's a platform where they have to report and it's like, okay, well, the ad revenue actually brought in $1 million and you only paid this creator $300,000. Where did all the other stuff go to? And then the contentID situation, what happens when there's a claim out? That's all those royalties. Is that black box royalties? Do you know what I'm saying? Like there's a lot of questions here, a lot of legitimate questions, but it's the same with publishing. Like I said, the same with taxes, the same with insurance. What you don't know hurts you exponentially, and they just don't want us to know.
Yeah, no, all these tech platforms. I mean, Instagram, Facebook, like all of them, they just be playing with the algorithm, limiting your reach. Like I wish, and I said this in a tweet the other day, I wish that we could collectively, like as creators, agree to just boycott a platform for a week, and let them see what it's like to have like creators not on the platform, so that at least we could like, negotiate some additional reach on our posts, because our posts have. I know it's not going to happen. Because we don't have that kind of unity or,
And then the moment that Instagram gets wind of it, they're going to pay all the poor creators who have never made money, and those people are gonna be like, fuck this. I've never gotten paid for taking it and running. Y'all been making money. So it's like it's the same way that unions happen with jobs. Like they just find somebody to pay or they bring in fresh talent. They don't care about us.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you need your fans' information so that you can have direct access to them. But something's really going on Instagram. Like some of even Jaws posts, he has a new podcast, and we know that it's not going to get the same engagement as his regular posts. But like having like over 600,000 followers and then getting like 200 likes on a post, that shit is crazy. So we definitely need to figure out the next move. We gotta stop becoming so dependent on social media. We gotta figure out that next step ASAP. But
it's not working for us. I mean, all social media has just become an ads platform. It's not just YouTube. Meta's the same way, and Meta's Facebook and Instagram. Everything's just becomes an advertising platform. And the problem with that is you have, radio to an extent, radio to a high degree is an advertising platform too. And people say horrible things about radio all the time. So these, I would argue, these social media platforms are way worse for musicians than radio ever was, because radio's format is still majority music. These other platforms are not majority music. However, they're profiting probably a lot more than I'd like to see how much they, like YouTube specifically, how much do they profit from music, and how much compared to how much they profit from just pure video without music, vloggers and stuff. I mean, their top YouTubers make a lot of money, the influencers and stuff, but there's music in their videos. So they're profiting a lot from music, but they're not a music platform, and they would never claim to be a music platform. Whereas radio is a music platform. I mean, no one listens to radio for the ads, but that's how radio stations thrive. So yeah, it's isn't that funny? Again, I don't think the music business is so unique in this regard that all of the platforms that profit the most from music creators are required and expected to do the least for music creators.
Yeah. Well, we can wrap this episode up. Next week, I guess we'll jump into I don't even know what you call it, like a new Web3 record label, or
Web3 is going to change everyone's lives. We're never going to have to deal with any of this stuff again. We're just going to live in this amazing NFT utopia.
There is a company that's working on something in the Web3 space for shows that I think is interesting, that maybe we eventually can have the founder on the MEC, but it's not about selling a song as an NFT for $50,000. Like, the utility of NFTs and the experiences you can create with the technology has always been something that's interesting. But there definitely is a lot of misinformation and just random hoopla. And it's funny that cat Koopa or whatever, the cat that has this new fund, like, he was the cat that like simultaneously hyped NFTs up and then like made a post about like, everybody chill out. These are the things, like, he's playing both sides.
Oh, that was him. Okay.
Yeah.
We're definitely going to talk about that then. Yeah, I remember that.
We got to have him on because he knows a lot about it, but he's got to stop, because I don't think he knows about the music industry like that. But he's got to stop. No, he knows a lot about the NFT Web3 space, and he's good. He's good at hyping people up about that. Like, but every time there's just holes, and I just think, people that are responsible for the hype, and then he wants to be responsible for like calming down the hype. I'm like, bro, you're part of the hype machine. What are you talking about? But he seems to be, I don't know him personally. We just follow each other on Twitter. He seems to be an okay guy, but I'd like to talk to him to see like where, like are you just a hype machine? Like what do you
Let's
think?
invite him on here and ask to interview him because Latasha, she came on and I learned a ton about NFTs when Latasha came on, even about the phrasing around Web3 that has not, and then Web3 versus Web2 and how they need to be linked, even though everybody's like, no, Web3 is the future. I would love to bring him on because I feel like it's super apparent he doesn't know anything about the music industry. And I feel like he's creating culture in the NFT space. So people are taking his word for it. But a lot of stuff, even with the NFTs, may not be true. Because even like you said, I remember that thread. He's always like, da, 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 da. And then he was like, we got to do better. We got to be more honest. There needs to be more transparency. A lot of y'all hype a bunch of stuff. Nobody really knows what's going on. And I'm like, you built your entire career off of all the things that you just said not to do.
Right. I'm gonna hit him up and see if he'll join. I'm gonna let him know that I'm skeptical from the jump, and I plan on asking what I think are the tougher questions. So we'll see if he's willing to come on. All right, cool, man. We can wrap it up.
All right. Once again, appreciate you tuning in. We'll be back same time, same place next week. Also, I'm live every single Tuesday making beats with your loops. And that goes down at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on beatstars.live. Check out beatstars.world to submit your loops. There's no charge for that. And I'll personally text you every time I go live so that you know not to miss the show. All you got to do is text MEC to the number
844-206-7800. Shoot you a text before Pain goes live. But yeah, see y'all next week.
Peace.
Peace.